Hello everyone and welcome to the talk show of the Governance of Sustainability Master Program at Leiden University. My name is Inês Rijo, I'm from Portugal and I previously studied marketing management. I am a first year student of Governance of Sustainability and today I'll be the host for this talk show. Before we begin, let me tell you a bit about the structure of the session. First, we'll start with a round of introduction. Then I will ask questions to Alexander, Sammy, Natalie, and Iliana to provide you with more information about our program. Please note that if you have any questions during the presentation, you can send them in. This can be done in our event page. And we will answer the questions by the end in the Q&A part. On the same event page, we will share upcoming events. The next event is the online experience on Friday, November the 17th, with a mini lecture and the opportunity to talk to a second-year student. Also, our Master Governance of Sustainability page, you can find the general program video to watch. A fun fact, Natalie, that is here with us today, did this video. All right, so let's start. Alexander, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone, my name is Alexander van Oudenhoven. I'm the program director of this master program, Governance of Sustainability. I'm an environmental scientist, also studied it for my bachelor and master, and I work at the Institute of Environmental Sciences of Leiden University.
Thank you. Sammy, would you like to follow?
Yeah. So I'm Sammy Koning. I work at Leiden University since for 5 years now, and since last year then as a study advisor and program coordinator. Which means for my role as a study advisor, I am involved and help students with their personal development. Besides my studies, maybe also a fun fact, I love to go to modern contemporary dance class or to read. And that's a bit about me.
Perfect. Thank you. We also have a soon-to-be graduate with us here today. Natalie finished her master before the summer holidays and actually has her ceremony next week. Would you like to please introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. So hello, everyone. My name is Natalie, and as was just mentioned, I handed in my thesis in July, but I actually extended my master by a couple of months to do an internship. So right now I'm interning as a project coordinator at a foundation. And in my free time, I actually also like to dance. So I didn't know that about you.
Perfect, thank you. And we have a graduate with us here as well today. Iliana, would you like to introduce yourself?
For sure. So hi, I'm Iliana. I graduated over a year ago from the GOS program. And then for the last year, I worked as a research assistant at the same institute where Alexander works, who also, GOS is a part of. I looked at the impacts of mining on biodiversity. And in my free time, I like to cook for friends and bake and do yoga, boulder, those kind of things.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone. Let's start with the talk show. My first question is for Alexander. Why should students study governance of sustainability at Leiden University? What is different and special about our program?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, you should, I think, join the program if you really want to, if you feel like you want to make a change. And if you're up for a challenge as well. So we co-teach, which means that from two different faculties, the Faculty of Science that I'm a part of, so the more natural sciences aspect, and the Faculty of Governance and Global Affairs, Public Administration, we teach most courses together. So there's really an integrated view. And that is quite unique in the Netherlands, but also in other sustainability programs. So, as I said, and I can explain it a bit later, that it can be quite challenging, but I think that is the key way to really come up with policy solutions, management solutions for these really nasty sustainability problems that we would like to focus on. And you can really see that back because it also makes the people that graduate with us really suitable candidates for the labor market as well, which is very nice to see and makes us very proud.
Perfect. And I would also like to pass this question on to Natalie. Why did you choose to study this program at Leiden University? Can you talk us about your motivation to come here?
Yeah, of course. So I chose to join this program because in my bachelor and also throughout high school, I noticed that I gravitated a lot towards sustainability through my extracurriculars. So I thought, okay, in furthering my education, I'd like to learn a lot more about how that works and especially how big decisions are made and how policy is formed around these issues. So that's why I chose to study.
Perfect. This program takes in students from different disciplinary backgrounds, both from social sciences and natural sciences and even other. Personally, I did marketing management before. I would like to ask Alexander, how does that work in practice? Is this program still challenging for students from social science background or natural sciences background?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think we generally have over 20 to 25 different backgrounds in terms of bachelor programs. So that's the academic background, of course. And I think that the program also really depends on the diversity of backgrounds. And also what makes it strong because of the interaction between different kinds of students. I think, first of all, what would be challenging for all students is the fact, and it sounds a bit strange, but it is a master's program. And that's for a lot of people really a level up. It should be. And it also means that even though you might read the same paper as you read during your bachelor program, now you're asked to actually apply the knowledge that is in it rather than to just regurgitate knowledge and say, I know what's in the paper. And that is really a different kind of way of going about. So that's more from a social sciences perspective. I think the natural sciences students, they sometimes, so to give an example of the biodiversity course that I teach, I think in week 1, the literature that we use there is kind of master level biology, like the very first week. So in your face, it's really, so we expect people to know the basics. It's not that we teach everything from the ground up. We expect people to have this background, and we facilitate that as well. So even for natural sciences students, there can be quite a lot of challenges. We also have a very sophisticated but challenging course on quantitative research skills, which really relates to sustainability and uses the data that makes you understand sustainability issues as well. So I think there's enough challenges, and if that's not challenging enough, there's at least also a thesis in which you're also expected to integrate everything. And the integration of these sciences is, regardless of your background, is a challenge. But that is really what we need to come up with solutions as well.
Of course. And Iliana, could you share some of your experience with the program? How was it to study together and collaborate with students from different backgrounds?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, I had a great time with the program, and I'm really happy with my choice to do it, so that's really good. And yeah, you collaborate a lot. There's a lot of group work, and the group work is always done in such a way that you have to collaborate with people with different backgrounds, which can be challenging in the beginning because you have to kind of make sure, okay, where is everybody coming from? Are we all on the same page about our knowledge? But then you can also learn a lot from everyone. Like I had no experience with like policy making, those kind of things, and then other people just whipped out a whole policy plan. I was like, wow, that's so impressive, and it's really cool to learn these kind of skills from your fellow students and not just from teachers. So yeah, it can be challenging, but it's also nice. You can really lean into each other's strengths and learn from each other. Yeah, so it's been pretty valuable, I think, to study like that. And I think it's also nice that people from different backgrounds and not just pure environmental scientists can come into this program, because everybody kind of is needed in to save the world, basically. Not to be dramatic.
Yeah, definitely agree. I think learning from other students is it's really nice. Natalie, how do you look back at group work throughout the program?
Yeah, I would say I agree. First of all, I really enjoyed it, but I would like to reiterate what was just said about you really learn a lot from your fellow students. So everybody has different experiences, and I noticed that it was always quite intentional to at least have students from different backgrounds in the same groups. And all the types of projects that we work on are really, kind of mimicking these challenges that we'll have to work on when we go out into the real world and do these jobs, and they're complex issues. So even though I didn't necessarily always have all the knowledge needed, I really felt like a valued group member, because it's really kind of like it will be in the real world, transdisciplinary. So you'll need different viewpoints, different ideas, different strengths to kind of come together. And I think that was a really nice part, looking back, of the group work.
Yes, perfect. And Alexander, what is your view on this as education director?
Yeah, well, I think as I said in the beginning, we really designed the program based on this interaction. So really that we need this diversity of backgrounds, both culturally and also academic background. So that really makes the group work stronger, I think, because you are, just like in real life, you are forced to work together. You have to, and we have to, of course, as different disciplines, we have to work together as well. And as a teacher, so in the second year, I also supervise students both for thesis and also for group work. So I see the same students back that I taught a year ago. And it's really nice to see how they have grown and what skills and what knowledge they've picked up. And how they have changed. Either they've really come alive and become a lot more outgoing. Not that everybody needs to be outgoing, but it's very interesting to see that as well. So, and that is really because of that interaction, because having to indeed mimic the real life work field, be it academic or more policy related, and coming to solutions, and sometimes just swallowing your pride and saying, I don't know the answer, but I think I recognize that what you are proposing is something we should work towards. So sometimes it's also about keeping back a little bit and recognizing your own limitations and something, which is just as important in these transitions. Yeah.
Yes, perfect. And going back to Natalie, can you describe a typical week? Do you have a lot of classes? What are the lectures like?
Yeah, sure. So I think in a typical week, I would spend a couple of days at the university and then some time doing self-study. Of course, at the university, if you want to do extra things, that's always a possibility as well. So I think it's nice that you can take advantage of that. So for example, I was also active in the Green Office of the university. But with the classes, we would typically have lectures or workshops where we would discuss the lecture content or the reading content, as well as skills modules. So for example, doing Python for climate modeling or GIS for spatial analysis in the biodiversity course. So there's a lot of variation in the week, and all the things kind of come together at the end, and you really see how they all fit together. But during the weeks, it was always quite a high pace, but really interesting and varied.
Yeah, and can you please share what a class looks like? Who is there in terms of teachers? What is the format?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of format, I think the three things I mentioned are the main ones looking back. So the lectures, or like the sort of more discussion-based workshops, or the skills-based workshops. And during all of the classes, there's always a teacher from each faculty, so from the natural sciences and then from governance. And at least in my time, I found it that all the students as well were really engaged in the discussion. So there was a lot of really like critical and lively conversation about the topics that we were discussing. So that's how I see it.
And can you tell us a bit more about the assignments that you had to do in the first year of the program?
In the first year? Yeah, sure. So for each course, we usually had a group work assignment, and then again, a skills-based assignment. So Python and GIS, as I just mentioned, were some of the assignments that we had, but also to create, for example, sort of policy brief on the energy transition, and you could usually choose, the region that you wanted to focus on, or what exact topic you wanted to focus on. So for the energy transition course, I think my group did something like energy justice in India, and we also had a policy brief on plastics and recycling. So a lot of different things that correspond to each course.
Yes. And for you, how was it like to study in The Hague?
I think it was really inspiring. Well, first of all, The Hague is quite like a relevant city when we talk about global affairs and governance. But also I think it's a really fun city, and it's kind of small enough that there's a lot to do, but you can sort of be everywhere you need to be. But I also just really enjoyed, again, what I said about how much the university offers on top of what you want to do. That's just the foundation of your studies. You can do a little bit of honors classes or activities outside of it. So I think if you make the most of your time and you really put your foot in many doors, you can get a lot out of your time.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Natalie, for sharing your experiences. In the second year of the program, there is a course called Sustainability Challenge. Sammy, could you please tell us more about this course?
Yeah, so it's in the second year, and in the first semester of the second year. And during this project course, you work on a real-life case, a real-life sustainability case. You do this in a group, so one of the skills you really further develop and what you apply from what you learned from the first year, you do this during this course in the group work you're doing for this external commissioner. So you really work with an external organization, so you conduct research together, then you in the end have to deliver a consultancy report. And at the end of the project course, you have to present your findings as a group, or at least one of the representatives of the group, at the symposium we have at the end of the project. And this symposium is really great. Like, we have stakeholders involved there, the commissioner itself, so these external parties, as well as the supervisors and students itself. So it's quite a big event, and it's really cool to then really see all the presentations of all the projects students worked on. And yeah, we have many different projects, so students give their preferences for their top 3, and then they get assigned to one of the cases. And I can give an example of a few of the organizations students worked on this year. So just to mention a few names, we had Tunen Institute of Baltic Sea Fisheries, Minamba Research Farm, the Minister of the Netherlands, and Rathenau Institute, which is a research institute. So it's very diverse organizations we work with, and also the commissioners change every year. Some return, but most of them, we have completely different projects again, and completely, different groups we work in. Alexander, do you maybe have something to add, or?
I had a meeting with them today, actually, with the group. So I supervise a group that works with one of the largest organizations on land restoration. And these 5 students are basically asked to provide input to their continental skills, so Africa skills strategy for land degradation, and how to go about, and also how to decolonize restoration, basically, which is a very big topic and a very big responsibility. Of course, they're swimming a little bit, but it's the early phase of the project, and we had, I think, requests by 37 different companies and organizations, and we could only grant 20. So that was a bit of an issue there, but there was really high demand for our kinds of students, and it's really nice to see that come together. It's the ultimate opportunity to do something that is more transdisciplinary, because you really have to apply your knowledge, but also ask questions back and maybe question the research question that you used to have, and really reflect on, do we require academic knowledge or more knowledge from practice, and what does our ultimate solution look like? And it's very different than a standard research project, so it's really exciting.
Yeah, you sometimes also hear that students say, like, it really is as if you're working as a consultant. They compare it sometimes with an internship. We don't have an internship in this program, but this can be experienced as an internship because you really work with someone outside of university. Yeah, nice. Yeah,
this sounds very interesting. Natalie, you completed this course last year, right? What project did you work on, and what projects did your fellow students work on?
Yeah, so indeed I did this project last year, and my project was for PBL, so the Environmental Assessment Agency of the Netherlands, and my group worked on a project about basically the social and environmental challenges of the energy transition. So we focused on key countries that have a lot of critical raw materials that will inevitably be mined for the energy transition, and what biodiversity risks and social risks are there. But different students in other groups worked for many different projects. So there was a group working on agriculture in Morocco, and I know there were some private stakeholders as well. One group did a project for Rabobank, for example, and I know another group did a project for a consultancy looking at how to develop metrics on circularity for businesses. So a lot of different things.
Yeah, thank you. In second year, students also write their thesis. Alexander, can you tell us a bit more about the thesis research project?
Yeah, that's when everything comes together. It's really the last semester, so the last half of the second year, and everybody starts at the same time. So in February next year, a new batch will start basically with their thesis. We organize this according to what we call capstone groups, which are basically topical groups led by one first supervisor. So I generally supervise a group of students on nature-based solutions, biodiversity, the relation between nature and human well-being. It's not that the students work as these projects as a group, but they work together while still doing their individual projects. So they can provide each other with feedback, with moral support, which is just as important, so that it's not really such a lonely struggle that it can sometimes be. And because you work on a similar topic, you can really provide each other with feedback and read each other's work and that kind of stuff. So similar to the sustainability challenge, students give their preference, and then after a thesis market where people can kind of shop for topics, they can talk to different supervisors, they can make their choice, and every thesis project, so every individual project is supervised by 2 supervisors, so one from the Faculty of Science and one from the Faculty of Governance and Global Affairs. So it doesn't mean that you will have to choose a topic in that sense, more governance-y or more science-y. You can, of course, but there is supervision from both sides, and it really facilitates its interdisciplinary approach, at least.
Yeah, and can you give me some examples of research projects that was done last year?
Yeah, so many. A lot of people were interested in sustainability aspects of food production, and be it worldwide, because there's a lot of questions to ask about that, the whole supply chain, but also local food initiatives, a lot of local climate adaptation initiatives, but also energy transition projects. I had a student of mine working on how value is perceived differently in different layers of governance and also society, because that ultimately has consequences for coastal engineering decisions, for policy, for modeling as well. So there's really a wide range of topic. We also had a very rebellious student who wanted to do something entirely different, and she worked on basically how pop culture, so movies, music, and other art expressions can actually contribute to a transition towards more sustainable solutions. What in case we don't really trust our policymakers anymore? Are there other ways of going about? And there were really interesting findings by just looking at relatively uninfluenced pop culture and how that can really relate to policy and ultimately sustainability. So there is quite a wide range of options possible as well.
Perfect. And Iliana, what was your thesis about?
Yeah, sure. Mine was about the interaction between the SDGs, whether they can be a synergy or are a trade-off. And I looked at the interaction between hunger eradication and biodiversity on the continent of Africa. And I had a really good time. It was also, of course, challenging. And I didn't expect it, but in the end, it was a pretty natural science-based thesis. And I did a lot of work with open source data, and I just programmed in R, and I felt really smart when I did that. Also challenging, of course, but it was really fun to kind of, really go for it and really do something more natural sciencey and more data related in a way.
Yes, yeah. And do you feel like the courses throughout the program prepared you for this final stage, the thesis?
Yeah, very much so. We have this half year of, I think in my time it was a half year. Is it still a half year? Yeah.
Yeah, but part-time.
Yes. No. Of quantitative skills. And that basically fully prepared me for my thesis, and I was actually really happy that I also applied these skills and really made use of what I learned throughout that half year, and also all the courses during the first year, and also I did a minor in sustainable development before, and that really helped me, I think, to get the proper base level of knowledge so I could apply it to a topic during my thesis. So I felt pretty well prepared for the thesis, and that was really nice.
Perfect, thank you. And Sammy, can you tell something about career aspects for students who graduate in governance and sustainability?
Yeah, of course. So we see students ending up in a variety of positions. So as researcher or a policy advisor, or as a consultant or analyst, PhD candidate. So there's many different types of positions. And in terms of consultancy companies, you can think of MS Hudson, Guidehouse, Berenschot. So there's many different companies there, and also we see students at a local level in governmental institution, but also on European level, like at the European Environmental Agency. And then at the same time, we also have students working at NGOs, like wave makers or Plan Adapt. So there's a huge variety of types of positions we see students starting.
Great, sounds very exciting.
Yeah.
And Iliana, in which type of positions are your fellow students working on right now?
Yeah, it's indeed also very, very broad. People are really busy, so that's really good. So it's kind of in line with Sammy also said, like from my closest friends, some of them work in consultancy, some were based on the financial sector with ESG, I never know how it works, but that's the whole from my friend. And also more policy advising consultancies. People work at local governments or at ministries, at municipalities. It differs a lot, but it's really cool to see where everybody ends up. And yeah, because the program is pretty broad and gives you a lot of skills, I think you're pretty well prepared for a very different kind of jobs, and it's really gives you the freedom to kind of go in the direction which you want to go to. And there's not just one career path you have to follow once you're done. It's pretty broad where you can end up.
Perfect. Yeah. And Natalie, what do you hope to do after you have graduated? What were your goals when you chose this program?
Well, I think when I chose the program, my main goal was to be able to move into a sort of track where I can build a career where I make an impact, and that still is very much the goal. Whatever that really means. I mean, I know that personally I'm gravitating towards conservation, but also the social side of sustainable development. So anywhere that I can make an impact and that gives me energy is what I want to do, and I think the program did a really good job of inspiring that as well.
Perfect. Yeah. And I'm also curious to hear if you had any difficulties during your studies. Were there certain courses or topics that you found somewhat difficult? And what did you hear from other students around you?
Well, I think being a transdisciplinary study and also, mixing the environmental sciences and governance, it will depend per student, maybe what your background is, what you find challenging. It's probably what you were not exposed to prior. For me personally, I think all of the sort of climate modeling and all of the statistics and R stuff was really scary to me. But as Ileana mentioned, we spend 6 months part-time doing all of that, and all of the exercises that we sort of do really do prepare you. And actually, when I wrote my thesis, I wasn't thinking at all that I would use R, and I ended up doing it anyway. And it was really nice to kind of build that confidence. So even though it was challenging, I think it's very doable if you just kind of like stick through it, but also everybody helps each other, and the program really does things in a way where, nobody is left behind. So,
yes,
yeah.
Definitely. Thank you. And Alexander, based on your experience, what do you see students struggle with during the program? What do you think could be a challenge for students, and what do you recommend for students to prepare themselves?
Yeah, be prepared. Yeah, so first of all, it is a very full-on program. So there's a lot of contact hours, there's a lot of lectures, a lot of reading to do. So it really will take all of your time during the week. And I know that every program is supposed to have that, but this is really you can't really afford to kind of lag behind and slack off a few weeks or so. So it's really full on, and a lot of students, like I said in the beginning, really have to get used to that. It's also a different form of education than maybe some other people are used to. Obviously, people with a more qualitative background will struggle initially with the quantitative and vice versa, but in principle we have preparation for everybody to really prepare for that. But especially for the people that are thinking of applying and sending in their information, really consider if you do have that sustainability background or not. And for instance, if you're a biology student, you don't necessarily by definition have a sustainability background. You have a natural science background, and we welcome that, but it might still require you to follow additional sustainability related or more interdisciplinary courses, because you can kind of focus on a really more disciplinary approach in biology. And the same for if you study finance, economics, or political science. Just mentioning climate change a lot in your bachelor is not the same as having applied environmental sustainability in your bachelor program. So really prepare yourself, set yourself up for that in your second or your first or your third year. There are minors available, there are MOOCs available, but make sure you do that before you think about applying, also to not delay your application process any further. And that's the same with statistics as well. So statistics and programming, we really explicitly ask you to have a basic understanding of that. And I think you already showed in a lot of different examples why you would need it. But having juggled numbers during your bachelor is not the same as having a background in statistics and programming. So that is sometimes a confusion we get during application processes. And then we are forced to kind of send it back, say, you know what, you really need these remaining credits for statistics or programming. So those are some of the aspects. And of course, another point, but that's for later on, when you want to work on your thesis, you will suddenly realize that you are solely responsible for that. Of course, supervised by two really good supervisors, but everything that you have learned, or everything that you have decided not to learn during that process, will come back to bite you. You know, so really set yourself up during the first year and a half for your thesis. And if you realize that you're the person that is never presenting or never writing, you will struggle during your thesis because suddenly you have to do both. So prepare for that, and ask your study advisor for help, ask teachers for help, ask your fellow students for help, because it's a really nice community to work together with as well.
Yes, and Iliana, what is your view on this? Do you have any recommendations based on your own experience?
Yeah, I think one thing I was thinking of, that quite some of my international friends struggled a bit in the first year to get adjusted to the Dutch university system. So if you come from outside of the Netherlands, it's maybe good to also get a bit familiar with how the Dutch system works. For example, some friends from Italy, they were used to like having courses for a whole year and then a few months to prepare and then having all your tests taken. And here it's really differently structured, and for them that was really challenging, that they had like a week to prepare for an exam. So I think that in itself, just get familiar with the Dutch system, or know that you're getting maybe into a different system than you're used to, might be good. And then also, of course, it will be challenging, but like you're in it together, and there's always people to help you. So it's good to for sure be prepared, but no, you can also do it, you know?
Of course. Yes, thank you. And I have one last question for everyone, which basically is what has been your favorite or most inspiring aspect of the program from a student or staff point of view? For me personally, this has been the opportunity to study with students from all different types of backgrounds, not only disciplinary but also cultural. I think you can learn a lot from other students and other perspectives. Natalie, would you like to share as well?
Yeah, sure. So I think for me, the most inspiring aspect of the program, and it goes a little bit in hand with what I mentioned before about wanting to get energy out of what I do, and I really do think that this program does that. It inspires you to like become a change maker, but also that everybody who's teaching or studying in this program really does care about the things that we're teaching, and it's very relevant today. So for example, last year we also had a course where the teacher changed the lecture content the week before because something super relevant happened and was going on in the news. So they changed the lecture content to sort of give us the implications of what all of that means in the context of what we were studying. And I think that's really cool and unique.
Perfect. Sammy?
Yeah, I would say for me, I fully agree with what you say, like working then with students with many different backgrounds. And the highlight for me is definitely the sustainability challenge, to really see all the cases that they worked on. And when I also walk around at the symposium, to really hear and see all the projects and the commissioners and the solutions that they came up with after doing all the research. And yeah, that was really cool to see. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Iliana?
Yeah, for me, it's firstly for sure also the people. It's so nice to be surrounded by fellow passionate and enthusiastic people who care as much about these important issues as you do. So I've met great people and learned a lot from all these people around me. And then also I think what I really like is just the broadness of it, but all the practical skills you also learn in the meantime. So it's in-depth and broad at the same time. I think that's very valuable.
Yes, perfect. And Alexander?
Yeah, that's so nice to hear. I would say the career market. That's something we organized for the very first time this year. Because of COVID, we could do things again with actual people in real life. And so we had 17 organizations joining a career market. We had about 80 students joining. And most of the organizations were represented by alumni, so people who studied the program. So they knew what students were after and were asking. And it was just really nice to see the interaction between multiple years, as if happening here as well. But at the same time, to see how quickly they have become another person, a new person, and feel really proud about it as well. And that interaction was really nice, especially because you email them and they say, yeah, sure, I want to do something back for the program, and they agree the next day. And that's really amazing to see that kind of that sense of community is quite unique among students and also among teachers.
Perfect. Thank you, all of you, for sharing. Let's now move on to the Q&A part. So we have some questions from the audience. The first question is from Laura. Is it possible to go abroad during the master program? Sammy, maybe you'd like to help?
Yeah, so we do have like exchange partners, but within the program itself, there's limited space to go abroad. So we motivate students that if you really want to go abroad, to first finish the master itself, so to complete 120 ECTS, and then take extra time for either an internship or an exchange program. The good thing then is that you also have more choices, because you don't have to necessarily focus on a sustainability issue during your exchange. And like Natalie, like you also have the option to do like an internship in the extra, like 5th semester. Yeah.
Perfect. We have another question from Tina. Referring to the sustainability challenge, will the program connect and assigned institutions, or students have to approach the institutions proactively? Maybe.
Yeah, I can answer that. No, that would be a bit harsh. We do ask some proactive attitudes, but we send out a call very early in the year, and then companies can basically register and fill in information, and then a smaller committee of teachers and study advisors then look at it and then decide whether it's really suitable for our kinds of students and our kinds of programs, and also to make sure that the companies are not just after very cheap free labor. So, you know, we need students to do research for half a year, good luck. It really needs to fit our program. So they come to us, which is really, really fun. Yeah.
Perfect. And Leon asks, the Sustainable Development minor was mentioned previously. Do you have any tips for current students of this minor?
We do have some tips. I don't know them out of the top of my mind, but we do know that from the Sustainable Development minor, the main courses don't always cover our requirements. So it is good to really check if you meet the requirements, so the knowledge on environmental sustainability issues on academic level, the transdisciplinary or interdisciplinary experience in either education or work, as well as the 8 ECTS in statistics, mathematics or programming. I don't know if Alexander, if you have something to add.
Yeah, so by doing that minor or a similar minor, if you're not in the Netherlands, it's hard to follow that. You do meet the requirements for interdisciplinarity and for sustainable development, having covered it in a minor, but not the quantitative skills. So that is something that you will have to either find or do somewhere else. So, but it's a really nice setup, I think, for the program, and we generally have about 8, maybe sometimes 10 students in the master that have actually done the minor, like Iliana, for instance.
But I did it in Utrecht.
Yeah. But there are many of these different initiatives, and that's really a nice way to actually get used to the topic as well. So yeah,
very much so.
Yeah, would you like to?
Yeah, for me, I think it was nice to have already a bit of a background in environmental science. Like I knew most of the basic concepts, and to go from that to the classes, I think that really helped to not get overwhelmed in the first week and be like, oh my God, what is all this information? But to really already have an understanding, I think that really helped me to feel pretty solid during the program.
Perfect.
Not
Thank
always,
you. And we have another question from Laura. Where can I find the entry requirements of the program, and what can I do if I have a question about it? If I can be admitted.
That's a good question. So on the website of the Governance and Sustainability page, like we have the admissions requirement listed there. So it's best to take a look there. And if you then still have questions, you can always email me or Lisa Lotte. So we are with 2 study advisors in our program. So one of us will help you, and otherwise there's always the admissions office. But I would say easiest is just going to us.
Perfect. We have a question from Alina. I am a political science major, and I did a course on environmental law as well as an internship in ESG. Would that be sufficient to apply?
That's a very specific question. I think it's best, if you motivate really well why you think it applies, because it needs to cover the environmental sustainability knowledge, of course. And if it's too law focused, it could be that it doesn't cover the environmental sustainability knowledge well enough. And yeah, we have Alexander here, who's also in the admissions committee, and they will really check if you can motivate why you think it's suitable. So that's a part that you really have to add in your motivation letter.
And the point there is not to convince us, but to really provide the facts and the backup. So there's a lot of students who either did a law degree or did something with ESG. That is sometimes very hard to judge. I think generally political science students have a sufficient quantitative research skills background, so that's why I'm quite convinced about that. Generally, just ESG experience and or environmental law would generally not meet the environmental sustainability criteria. But if you have built-on experience, especially because it was an internship, then you really need to explain what you did and where it happened, etc., and how intensive it was. So it's very hard to judge just from a short Twitter-like message. but in case you doubt, then really go through the entry requirements, and otherwise, the study advisor can always explain it further to you.
Perfect. And we have another question from Caroline. I hope I pronounced that correctly. What opportunities are there when it comes to study associations, extracurriculars, or even student positions within the program, like student assessor or representative? I don't know if maybe Natalie, you'd like to help?
Yeah, sure. So I would say there's a lot of opportunities, and it's just a matter of putting yourself out there and kind of looking for them. But definitely there's a study association called GASA within the program. A lot of students are involved in that. It's very social, but they also do things like career events. Like I said, I was also involved in the Green Office of the university, which is Leiden University's Green Office, and they work on events, but also integrating sustainability within the university's operations, things like that. Student positions in the program I've also done, and usually you'll get an email about that, so it's also just about putting yourself out there. So you can be a student assistant to the study advisors like I did, or you can also be a teaching assistant for different courses, and that usually comes around the second year. But you can also be a representative as well. Sorry, I just read that part of the question. But yeah, I think it's all about just keeping an eye out in your mailbox. Is usually they do communicate with you. There's honors classes and all sorts of things. So
maybe nice to add there's honors classes and also a Leiden leadership program. Mm-hmm. The content of it changes every year. But we make sure we have this Brightspace page where we help students to know what you can do besides your study, and we call it the a la carte governance of sustainability. So if you want to top up your program in a certain way by working next to it as a student assistant or by doing extra classes, then we give a bit more information, like a guideline where you could start. Yeah.
Perfect. And Laura has another question. Is it possible to study part-time?
It's not possible to study part-time. It's best to reach out to us to explain your situation, so we can look into this and see if your specific situation is possible. So we have students, for example, that are doing top sports, and then there's adjustments, of course, in the program to make sure that both work out. In general, we say it's a full-time program. We have some students working part-time besides the program, but that really depends on your own organizational skills. If you feel the mind space and time to, after the 40 hours, still work on top of that.
Can I add something on that?
Yeah.
For me, I did also work always next to the program, but it was an evening job in a cafe. But that combined for me very well. It was really easy for me to study during the day and then in the evening, 2-3 evenings a week, work in a cafe. That was pretty combinable. Some people also did a normal job during the day, but that didn't really... Well, sometimes it worked out, but that's a bit more challenging because a lot of the courses are full-time during the day, and with a day job, that's pretty hard to combine, but with evenings, it's pretty easy, I think.
Yeah, then it really has to be ultra flexible, both the work and the study, yeah.
Perfect. Elvin asks, are there any environmental science courses available for students with social science backgrounds before the start of the academic year or vice versa? Sammy, would you like to help?
Yeah, so if it's to meet the requirements of the 8 ECTS, then we recommend to look at a current university or university in the area where you are based to see if you can follow courses there. If that's not possible, then feel free to reach out to us and we can think in your individual case what is necessary and how many ECTS you are still missing, and then we can see if we can help with that. I hope that answers your question.
All right, unfortunately our time is up now. I would like to thank Alexander, Natalie, Sammy, and Liliana for joining me today for this live session, and also thank everyone who joined us. We hope that you enjoyed the session and that it was helpful for you to make a decision concerning your master's studies. As mentioned before, it's also good to know if you have any remaining questions, you can always reach out to the study advisors of the program or the student ambassador. And in the future, we will organize more events, both online and on campus. So keep an eye on our website under the tab Information Activities for new events. The first event coming up is on Friday, November 17. And during this event, there will be a general presentation about the program and a mini lecture and more. I wish you a wonderful day, and I hope to see you soon at Leiden University. Ciao.
Ciao.